All right, welcome everyone to our webinar. This is a bit of an experimental webinar. A lot of times we do longer form content in the form of workshops, of course, in person, online. Today's topic is read faster in 30 minutes. So some of the longer workshops we do are maybe beyond the realm of some people's attention. And even 30 minutes, I think, for some people is rough. So keep in mind, if you feel like you have attention issues, attention and your focus is a skill that can be improved on. And actually part of reading faster requires you to improve your focus. So I'm going to try to do a relatively short workshop on reading faster or speed reading. And it's going to be like a speed reading workshop. So let's get right into it. First off, we're going to use a few materials today. irisreading.com/YTS is where you can find that. Okay, irisreading.com/YTS. That link is over in the chat as well. I believe it's in the description as well down below. And if you go to that link, you will just find that it takes you to a Dropbox location where you can download these files. You might get something that pops up like this to create an account. Ignore all that. Just go continue with download only. And it's just 2 PDFs. You don't have to print them out. You can just view them from your screen when we get to them, but we'll get to that in a little bit. And also, just a quick reminder, if you want us to do more content like this, subscribe to the channel. It's growing, but we want to see whether or not people are interested in learning these kind of quick skills, whether it's speed reading, comprehension strategies, other study skills like note taking. We get a lot of interest in memorization techniques. So we also do that. And we've also done a lot of workshops related to focus and productivity. And that's useful for students. It's useful for working professional, anyone that loves to learn. If you want to learn how to learn, that's what this channel is all about. And again, my name's Paul Nowak. I'm the founder and CEO here at Iris Reading. Let's get right into it. How are we going to read faster in 30 minutes? So let's think about how most people read. See this green dot bouncing around. Most people, when they read a little something like this, word by word, left to right. In English, not all languages read from left to right, but sometimes we go back, right? Sometimes we are going right to left to reread material in English, and that can be frustrating. You ever read, let me know in the chat if you do, you ever read a whole page of text and you look up like, I have absolutely no clue what I just read. Sometimes you read the same stupid sentence 5 or 6 times, and that can be very, very frustrating. Well, we're going to work on improving focus so that doesn't happen as often. But basically, there's some old reading habits we got to change if you want to read faster. One is something called fixation. Fixation is something your eyes do. They fixate on one word, next word, and so on. The problem is you can read groups of words. Actually, you already do it when you're driving. Let's say we're driving towards New York City and you saw an exit sign on the highway that had 3 words, New York City. You wouldn't look at them each one individually. You would have your eyes fixated on the road. You see the sign, you fixate on the sign for a split of a second, and then you fixate back on the road so you don't crash. And in that split of a second, you can read a chunk of 3 words. However, when people are reading on the page or even on the screen, a lot of times they'll have New York City in the middle of some paragraph and they'll go New York City or one by one. So first we need to learn how to read groups of words. Next, regression. This is the idea of rereading material. We got to improve our focus so we don't go back as often. We'll talk about that. And then there's subvocalization. This is that voice you hear in your head while you are reading. Have you noticed that you hear voices in your head, right? And I like to ask that question because people kind of find it to be an odd question, like, yeah, I am hearing voices in my head. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It's your voice, right? That's normal. They call that subvocalization. By the way, if you're not hearing your voice, if you're hearing other voices in your head, that's a separate issue. Maybe get that checked out. But this actually keeps people from reading faster. We'll talk more about this, but basically, if you're saying all the words in your head, you can only read as fast as you talk. And you want to be able to read faster. If you go to our website, irisreading.com, you'll see our tagline at the very top says, reading at the speed of thought. That's because you can go much faster than you talk. What about your thinking speed? You can think much faster. So anyway, we got to figure out our reading speed. Let's do that first. First point of order, go to irisreading.com/YTS if you haven't already, and this is where you can download the 2 files for today's session. We're going to refer to speedtest1.pdf, and I'm going to have it displayed on my screen. So if you could easily read this text here, or better, if you're watching it in the standard player, maybe expand the player so you could see this more clearly. If for some reason it's too pixelated because it's on my shared screen, go to this link. It's in the chat. It's in the description. Download the file and then open it and expand it or zoom in to an appropriate size. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have you just read for 1 minute. Now, at the end of the minute, I'm going to stop you, and we're going to see what exactly was your reading speed. So I got a minute on the clock here. I hope you have this in front of you. If not, you're looking straight from my shared screen. I am going to disable my webcam, so goodbye. And I want you to just read normally for good comprehension. In 1 minute, I'll turn my mic back on and I'll tell you to stop, and then we'll figure out your speed based on these numbers over here. Okay, ready? Go ahead and begin reading. Okay, let me stop you there. That was a minute of reading. Take a look at the line where you stopped. Also, let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. I'm always curious. We are based in Chicago. We also have an office in the Miami area, but we've done these workshops in over 100 cities, and I'm curious to know where people are joining us from, because when we do this online, we see people from all over the world. So drop a note in the chat. I'm broadcasting from the Miami area. And by the way, let's figure out your speed. Where did you end up? If you finish the first 2 paragraphs, you see that's 250. These numbers tell you how many words are to the end of the line. So figure out your speed, write that number down. Very important you write it down, maybe on a Post-it note or a sheet of paper or a digital note. We're going to circle back to that. And you're probably wondering right now, what exactly is the average reading speed? The average reading speed is 150 to 250 words per minute. Okay? So 150 to 250, 200 to 300, that's for college educated adults. This is more for like the general populace. And then we've got reading on the screen. The average person reads 136 words a minute on the screen, around that speed. By the way, I do see a question in the chat. After this, can you make reading faster, a little shorter? Okay, so 30 minutes, I know for some people that's too much. You know, the life gets in the way, as you mentioned. We are, if you look at our shorts, we've got shorts posted on this channel as well. And we are planning on doing shorter form content. So I just want you to know there's going to be a mix. This is scheduled for 30 minutes, but we've done longer workshops. We've done shorter videos. We do plan on producing more content. So again, just a quick reminder, if you want some of that content, subscribe below. Give it a like. That actually helps push it out via the algorithm to more people as well. And it's more likely to show up on your YouTube profile if you like or subscribe. So going back to this idea of subvocalization, saying words in your head. Most people do this. It's a habit. We got to change it if we're going to start going faster. And the problem with this is if you say all the words in your head, you end up reading as fast as you talk. What's the average talking speed? It's 150 to 250. Same number we saw before. And the reason it's the same is because, well, we're saying all the words in our head. If that's the case, you're not going to go beyond these numbers. Or if you are reading faster than 250, let's say you're at 300 or more, what you'll notice is you're not saying all the words in your head, and that's a good thing to notice. All right, the goal is going to be to get above 300 if you are not already there. And if you're in the 300s, the goal is to get to the 400s and so on. Now, first thing is we got to figure out how to concentrate better. Because if we have better focus, we're going to read faster. Easiest thing is use your hand or pen as a guide. What I mean by that is, you literally, if you're reading printed material, plopping your hand onto the page or your finger, or some people prefer a pen, and that's fine. and you're just kind of moving along here smoothly from left to right, line by line. The reason this helps is because your eyes are naturally attracted to motion, okay? So that's what you want to do when you're reading on the page. I do realize that's not convenient if you're reading on your phone or a touch screen or digital devices where you don't want to touch your screen. So let's talk about reading on the screen. Let's take some sample reading material. It's going to be from The Onion. We're going to read this article here. Snowstorm in Chicago delays hundreds of morning murders. There's a lot of good things you could associate with Chicago. That's my hometown. But snow is definitely one of them. And murders and crime are also related to Chicago, among a lot of great restaurants and things like that. But let's read this article. It's very short. It's a silly article from The Onion, America's finest news source. But let's read it. So we're going to use a program that we developed called Accelerator. And I want to show you some nuances behind this program. Some of you may have even heard of it if you watch some of our other videos on the channel. But this is a free speed reading tool that we created, and it's very easy to use. You go to accelerator.com, spelled like this. You copy and paste the text into the box. You hit begin, and then in the middle of the screen, when I hit read, you're going to notice the words blinking on the screen. And they're going to blink at whatever speed you set in the program. We're going to start at 250 words a minute and then go up from there. We're going to kind of test our limits. So if you could read at 250 words a minute, that is a speed that is average for college-educated adults in the US. I say that because if English is your native language and you have some college education, then average is 200 to 300. So 250 is sort of like middle of the road here. Now, I do understand that if English is not your first language, your speed might be lower. Some people have a mastery of the English language and they go a little fast, or they're naturally fast readers, or maybe they've taken a speed reading course like ours or others, and they've trained themselves to go faster. But we're going to do a little bit of that right now. We're going to use this program. We copy and paste the text. Let's see if you could follow along at an average speed first, and then we're going to try to go faster bit by bit. So focus your attention in the middle of the screen here. We're going to read this article. Snowstorm in Chicago delays hundreds of morning murders. And let's try it out. Here we go. So there you go, 250 words per minute, an average speed for college-educated adults. If you were able to keep up with that, great. We're going to try to push our limits here. I do see a message in the chat. Can you review books as speed readers? Yeah, that is. We've had various ideas we've been kicking around for this channel, along with tips and strategies. The other idea has been like book reviews. So again, stay tuned for that. Sometimes you just want to get the gist of a book. Sometimes there's books that I've read that I like to talk about, so we might do that. We'll have other instructors as well and on board, and that is, I think, a great idea for us to continue on with. But let's jump back to this program and take another article, but instead of going 250 words a minute, let's try going 300 words a minute, okay? And by the way, you can let me know in the chat if you were able to keep up at 250. So you could almost like give yourself like on a scale of 0 to 100%, how confident were you in what you were reading? Maybe you felt pretty confident, 90%. You can think of it like an estimate of comprehension. I know that's very subjective, but if you felt like you understood it well, you might say 80 or 90%. If you felt like it was so-so, you might say 70%. You could let us know in the comments or chat how you felt that first time around. We're going to do this again right now on another article, also from The Onion. And this article is Man Can't Help But Be Proud of Strong Tortilla Chip. Again, you can see it's very short. This is just a quick check on whether or not we can go a little faster. So in the settings, you can change that to 300 words a minute. Notice what we were doing on the chunk size. We were going 2 words at a time. Let's keep that the same. You see 2 words at a time? Let's see if you can read groups of words. And here's what we're gonna do. 2 words at a time, 300 words a minute. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so keep your attention right over here, and we're gonna go a little faster. Ready, set, go. All right, so that was 300 words a minute. Again, let me know in the chat if you're able to keep up, or you can kind of give yourself an estimate of comprehension, 0 to 100%. Maybe it felt good last time and maybe it dropped off this time. Or maybe you're getting used to this program and you're realizing, hey, you know what? I was able to maintain comprehension. Okay, now let's take some more serious material. Okay, something like Animal Farm, this classic book. I've got it in front of me right here. I read this a while back. It's a great book. It's a short read. About 100 pages or so. It's about a bunch of animals on a farm. They realize they're kind of being exploited by the humans, and they decide we're going to take over the farm and create a society where all animals are equal. And it doesn't really turn out that way. So it's one of these dystopian type novels by George Orwell. You may remember him from the famous book 1984. Anyway, let's find the full text. We got it right here at this link. Just looked online for it. And we've got Animal Farm, chapter 1. You can see it right here. How would we go about practicing to get faster? I want to explain to you some drills that we do. And the answer to this question, we all know. How do you get better at anything? The way you get better is by practice. And when we're talking about practice, as it relates to speed reading, there are these things called speed drills. And the whole point of a speed drill is just force yourself to go faster than you would normally read. It's kind of like sprinting. Now, you don't have to sprint, you can jog, right? But reading would be like jogging. And then there's running. And then there's sprinting, like going all out. So we're going to do these speed drills, which is kind of equivalent to running or sprinting. The whole goal is let's go faster than usual. And we're going to take material. You know what? You already read. You read this article right here. Snowstorm in Chicago delays hundreds of morning murders. We'll get to Animal Farm in a moment, but I want to explain how a drill would work. You take material that's already been read, this article, and we read it initially at 250 words a minute. We're going to bump up the speed a little faster and force ourselves to go faster on inconsequential material that we've already read. And how are we going to do that? What we're going to do is, you see the keyboard shortcuts on the bottom? Let me zoom in there. So first off, most important keyboard shortcut, if you want to change your speed, up and down arrow keys. That'll increase or decrease by 25. So spacebar is also pretty important. Let's say it went too fast and you want to pause it, just hit the spacebar. If you want to unpause, hit the spacebar. And if you got to go back, you hit the back arrow key. If you want to restart, you hit R to restart. We're going to restart. We already read this article at 250. Now I'm going to improve the speed to 350. See that? I'm going to hit R to restart. We're back at the beginning of this article. Now, this is faster maybe than what you're used to. Actually, for some of you, if you're above average, this might be just fine. But let's see if we could keep up or try to just get used to seeing words faster at 350 words a minute. Let's try it out. Here we go. All right, so you see what we did there. We forced ourselves going faster over something we already read. Let's do that again on this right here. Man can't help but be proud of strong tortilla chip. This was a very short, silly article that we already read. We read it at what, 300 words a minute? Let's bump that up to 400 words a minute. You see the speed now is 400. If we want to go back to the beginning, we're going to hit the R key to restart back in the beginning. And again, focus your attention here. This is a practice exercise. It's the equivalent of, like I said before, running or sprinting. And I want you to focus your attention in the middle of the screen, and we're going to go 400 words per minute. All right, let's try it out. Here we go. All right, so there it is. That was 400 words a minute. We're training our eyes to see words quickly. Now, by the way, I should say this is a live stream, so it looks like we've got a good connection. It's blinking the words, but if the connection messes up at any point, you might see like blink, 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 pause, blink, blink. It might blink erratically. If that happens, it could be internet connection on my end, somewhere in between, or on your end, since this is being recorded as a live stream. Hopefully there are no hiccups along the way. But let's get into some more serious material. This novel by George Orwell. How would you practice this on your own? You know, we got this long novel. It's, I mean, it's not that long. It's a short 100-some page novel, but a lot of text is what I meant to say. So what you could do here, instead of copying and pasting all of chapter 1, which you can do, and because this is a short webinar, I'm going to show you how you could read and also do drills at the same time. You might take the first, I don't know, 2 paragraphs, right? You copy, you go to the program right here. I'm going to press the N key to get some new text. N is for new. I'm going to paste the text that I just copied from here. Sorry, not from here, but from here, right? We copy, or Command C, Control C, and then Command V to paste, or Control V to paste. And we're going to hit begin. And we're not going to go 400 words a minute. Maybe we're going to go at a speed that's more average, something that feels more comfortable to us. I'm going to bump it up to, not bump it up, I'll bump it down to something like 300 words a minute, okay? So let's see if you can keep up at 300 words a minute. And we're going through Animal Farm. Just the first couple paragraphs to test our comprehension here. Let's try it out. Here we go. Okay, so now the goal of a speed drill, reading is reading, right? It's going at a speed that's comfortable. So if 300 was too fast, you might drop that speed. But if 300 was okay, you go with it. The speed drill is let's go way faster. And we already read the first 2 paragraphs here. We're going to reread that, but at 600 words a minute. Now, by the way, if you were doing this on your own, I would read more than 2 paragraphs. I'm just trying to demonstrate reading and then doing a speed drill. And then again, reading, speed drill, reading, speed drill. But if you were doing this on your own, instead of the first 2 paragraphs, you might read, I don't know, the first 10 paragraphs, or the first, maybe you read all the way up to here, okay? Or maybe you read through the whole chapter. If you feel like you can keep your attention for the whole chapter, you do that. But then after you're done reading, you practice a speed drill. And that just means I'm gonna reread what I've already read, but at a speed that's closer to almost double my normal speed. So if you were comfortable at 300 or 250, you might bump this up to 500 or 600 words a minute. Let's do 500 to ease into it. And we're gonna hit R to restart. Focus your attention in the middle of the screen here. And actually, we're gonna go, instead of a chunk size of 2 at a time, we're gonna do 3 at a time. So, by the way, it's stopping right here at Mr. because in the settings, I have this setting, start new chunk at the end of sentences and paragraphs. So what it looks for is a period. So anytime it sees a period, it just shows you the last word of the sentence. but it also shows you that if it's Mr. or Mrs. So you see the period there is making. After this, if I click the right arrow key to go to the next chunk, you see it goes back to 3 words at a time, 3 words at a time, and so on and so forth. I'm just hitting the right arrow key right now, okay? So I see, what about reading backwards? If you are into skimming and reading backwards, I mean, it's not the most effective way to read, but you can make things out. You can certainly skim and get keywords. Also, have you read Super Reading Secrets by Howard Berg? Yes. We're not going to jump into a long commentary on that, maybe later, but let's try this drill because we got time constraints here. 500 words a minute, 3 words at a time. Okay, focus in the middle. This is a speed drill. You already read the first 2 paragraphs here. We're now just skimming the first 2 paragraphs with this program. Here we go. Okay, so we got here 500 words a minute, and we would do this again. We'd go, okay, next 2 paragraphs, copy, paste, or maybe this giant paragraph right here, or we might read the whole chapter, read it normally at whatever speed is comfortable. And then after you're done with that, double up your speed. That's how you do these speed drills and how you can practice them on your own. By the way, you could do this with reading material you've already read as well. Like you could do a 30-second drill on this article. Remember you read this for a minute? And you got to a certain point, maybe you got through the first 2 paragraphs or first 3. You read for 1 minute, then you could practice a speed drill that's 30 seconds, just skimming what you've read. Now, why does this work? The speed drills, the whole point is to get used to seeing words faster. It's kind of like, I like to think of it as being on the highway. How does it feel when you're on the highway? You're going fast, you get off the highway, and now it feels super slow. That's because you got used to seeing words very fast. I'm sorry, words. You got used to driving fast, and then now you reset and it feels slow. With reading, it's the same thing. When you do the drills, it's like being on the highway. You're driving or reading really fast, or really skimming fast, but you're doing it on material you already read. But if you do this a number of times and diligently practice, when you get off the highway and stop doing speed drills, you'll notice it doesn't feel that fast. Sometimes you're going 40, 50 miles an hour and you don't realize it when you're supposed to be going 20 in a school zone. But you guys get the idea, I think. This is how we can start building up our speed over time. And by the way, I should mention this too. We have the passage you read from earlier is from the book Focus, A Simplicity Manifesto in the Age of Distraction. If you want a free copy of this book, shoot me an email. The author's given us permission to freely distribute the PDF of this book. So shoot me an email. Just let me know you were in the session today, and I'll send that email back as a PDF. It's a quick read. It's like 100 pages, but a lot of great tips on how to improve your focus, and I think that helps with comprehension. That helps with speed as well. Also, if you are interested in a more advanced course, I know on YouTube we tend to do more short form content, even though 30 minutes for a lot of people is long form content. All depends on how your perspective is. We do have more advanced courses on our website. So here's the thing. There's a speed reading course that goes into a deep dive if you want to do a lot of drills and exercises and really get faster. There's comprehension strategies, maximizing memory. There's effective note taking. There's personal productivity. If you want to, because we're going to leave this live stream up, and then some people may or may not watch to the end, and that's fine. But if you happen to be here at the end, here's a little code for you. If you want to get 30% off any of those courses, or if you want to send that to someone, by all means, feel free. And that will give you 30% off any of the courses. We also do classes in person in other cities. So you can always go to our website, click on the cities where we do in person, and if you find one near you, you can go ahead and register at that code. And if you're just interested in supporting us through YouTube and you want updates, which will happen on a weekly basis, go to youtube.com. And my name's Paul Nowak, the handle there. You can probably just search it as well and it'll pop up. And don't forget to subscribe, and it'll show on, it might enable an email or a little ding. It all depends on what you do. If you click for alert, subscribe. But I want to thank you all so much for attending. If you want to connect in other areas like LinkedIn or Instagram, feel free. My email is paul@irisreading.com. So if you want to invite us to do a workshop at your company or school, by all means, shoot me an email, or even if you have questions, you can reach me by email at that email address. Sometimes I do get a little busy with life and work, and if I don't get back to you right away, I'll try to as soon as I can. But thank you all so much for attending this relatively short webinar to read faster in 30 minutes. Again, my name's Paul Nowak, and I'm with Iris Reading. If you like what we're doing, tell your friends about us. And if you don't like what we're doing, tell your enemies about us, because that'll show them. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of the day. Take care.